Hello, I'm Professor Chia from Sunway University, Malaysia. What I've been asked to do is to talk a little bit about how to construct a winning abstract for a conference. So what I'm going to do is very quickly go through the contents of a good abstract and then offer some tips, do's and don'ts when you are actually preparing an abstract. Firstly, we need to ask ourselves, why are we writing an abstract? What's the aim? Basically, the aim is to share your research, and so therefore it has to be done in a very compelling and a succinct way. You could think of it as telling a story, so that the story is captivating, it is interesting, that it makes me want to read on and to find out more. But before you actually write the abstract, you first need to follow the guidelines of the journals, because there is a format, the number of words, you have to follow the guidelines. Basically, what an abstract should have is a title, the author's affiliations with their names. You need to have the aim or the objective at the background. Then you need to have your methodology, your results, your conclusion, and then your discussion. So firstly, let's look at a title. A title has to be succinct, it has to be clear, and it should reflect the contents of your study. So for example, if we are looking at prevalence of hypertension in young adults, and this is of interest to you because you know that prevalence of hypertension is higher in older adults rather than younger adults. So basically your title could be prevalence of hypertension in young adults aged 18 to 29. So this will catch my attention because that is not the sort of people that we study or we manage hypertension in. Then your background and objective, it doesn't need too much because hypertension story is very well known, and don't forget you are actually looking, it is the readers, basically it's a reviewer who's reading it. So basically you could just say hypertension is very prevalent and it is usually higher in older adults than younger adults, and hypertension in younger adults may be associated with secondary causes, hence your aim was to examine the prevalence of hypertension in younger adults. Under methods, you need to describe clearly the method you use. You need to define the blood pressure, what is defined as hypertension, because we know some studies are 140 by 90, some are 130 by 80. And then of course, when you are writing the method, do not include any findings or results in there. It is quite annoying sometimes when I see under the methodology it says this study recruited 1,000 patients, mean age this and that. That should actually go into the results section. So in the results section, you present key findings and highlight important findings that support your conclusion. And then of course in the conclusion, do not repeat the findings. Often I read the statement that the prevalence of hypertension in young adults is 28%, if that's what you found, because for a reader who's not familiar with this subject, they don't understand what this 28% means. So you interpret it and conclude. You will now state the prevalence of hypertension in young adults is high, because we know normally it's around 15, now you got almost double, 28%. So that's the way it should be done. And then try to explain or to speculate a little bit why it is high, and then finally of what relevance. So what you found is high, of what relevance it is. Obviously the relevance is that you want to screen more actively young adults, you want to try and look for secondary causes as well. So some of the tips that I can think of is that you should use clear and concise language, keep the sentences short and precise, use the active voice. For example, you could state it as, we examined the prevalence of hypertension in young adults, rather than saying the study was done in young adults, so on and so forth. But don't overuse it either. Emphasize key findings, that's very important because that's what you are supposed to report. Check that the overall, your abstract is clear. Proofread for errors, grammatical errors, as well as spelling. Again, very annoying when we find all these mistakes. To me, a good abstract is one where when I read it, I don't have to ask the question as I read each sentence. For example, if you just state the study recruited 500 adults, female, 45%, BMI, so and so, but you haven't told me the age, because to me the age is very important, because prevalence of hypertension is very much associated with age. So therefore I need to see this information rather than finding it further down in your abstract. Other do's and don'ts, Don't include unnecessary details or information. Stick to your points. Don't use vague language, for example, saying the findings have some importance. What is some and what is importance? You state clearly what you mean by the importance. And the sum, because you've done a study, you have actual figures, is no longer a sum, people, vague sort of terms. And importantly, don't over conclude. There's something that you're not studying. For example, in this study, you then say, oh, the cause is hyperaldosteronism, when you actually have not studied or found out anything about hyperaldosteronism in this group of patients. So I hope this helps you somewhat in preparing an abstract. And so all it remains is for me to wish you good luck. Go and win a prize for your abstract. Thank you.